Hey beautiful people, how are you? My name is Connor and you're watching ThrivingMinimalist.com. And today I'm going to be sharing with you something that's close to my heart. And I think the biggest question would be, why is this guy talking about relationships on a minimalist channel? And I can tell you that minimalism is awesome. I've said this in other videos, it's great. And also it's just a thing, you know? It's like no big deal, it's just a tool. And we can use minimalism in any freaking way we want. My goal in starting this channel wasn't to exclusively talk about minimalism, but rather to use the momentum of minimalism to bring people into this channel to talk about health, to talk about healthy living, to talk about a more vibrant existence, and to talk about how we can achieve that on our own. So minimalism is, although it is the title of the channel, it's not necessarily at the forefront of every video. But health is. And choosing our own passions and recognizing what is important to us and really feeling like we can do that. We can go after what is important to us and not feel like we have to do it like somebody else did it just because we were told that we had to. And for me, relationships are no different. I've had a lot of experience with certain types of relationships. If you've seen some of my other videos about maybe how I got to where I am, you know that I was in a monogamous, long-term relationship, was married and then divorced, and that whole relationship was 12 years. So I've had a lot of experience with it, starting at 16 to 28. I was with the same person, and it was lovely, it was perfect. It helped me become who I am now, and I'm really happy with who I am now, and I'm really happy with the life that I live. So I want to talk about different facets of why I choose polyamory. And it also feels incredibly important to me at this point in the video, before I get too deep into the topic, to let you know that I have such a desire. It's probably the most important thing to me to express and know that it was heard, that you've received it. To tell you all that what you choose in your life for you is perfect. I respect you and I honor you. And I want nothing for you but to choose the things that make sense to you. And my desire would be to be respected and honored in the same way for my choices. Because for me, YouTube is an opportunity for me to share my experiences. And my hope and desire is that through sharing, other people will be inspired to live a more authentic life for themselves. Not to live a life like me, not to choose the things that I'm doing, but to choose the things that they align with. To choose the things that are truth for them. Truth and authenticity for you as an individual. And in regards to relationships, I can completely understand why people choose monogamy. And I can also really understand why people choose polyamory. And I can also understand why some people choose to have just a relationship with themselves. And so on and so forth. I can get into those shoes. And I also know that right now, this moment, I am choosing what is right for me. And I'm not attached to it either. I'm really open to these things changing. Because there's been so many things in my life where I've said, this is it, this is the end all be all, it's always gonna be like this, never gonna change. And it's totally changed. It's gone completely the opposite direction. So I know for some people this topic is triggering and it brings stuff up. It brings up maybe frustration, maybe sadness, maybe like a longing, a craving. And that's all okay with me. It's all okay. As long as we know that's what you're experiencing, or that's what I'm experiencing right now. That's my reaction to what this person is sharing. No one's doing this to me. You know? We're responsible for this and this alone. And then we take this and we bring it out into the world. So, I think that's really important for all of us to remember throughout our lives. It's something I work on every day, owning my own experience and just trying to bring more love into the world. And that's it. And that can be done in a lot of different ways. It doesn't have to be done through a polyamorous relationship. It can be done any way you want. Any way you want. So to go back into the history of things a little bit, when I was 16, actually I'm going to go back even further. When I was in maybe 6th grade, I really noticed a longing for intimate connection. And I craved it, you know? I would lay awake at night and just think about people and think about like loving them. Both, like in all the ways. Just like I loved people. I was such a social creature. But in 7th grade, I started going to this like alternative music scene place for high schoolers. It was called the Living Room. If there's anyone out there who's been to the Living Room in Santa Barbara or Goleta, I don't think it exists anymore, but hit me up, like post in the comments and say what's up, because that was the real deal. So it was just like a bunch of punk rockers and like goth kids and like kids that were into ska music, and a bunch of weirdos really would all get together and see these shows and stuff. You know, maybe 3 bands would play at during a time, but mostly what I felt like it were these kids coming together for community, for love, for family, for the creation of connection with one another. And I freaking loved it. I realized that there was so much inside of me just exploding out. I mean, that's when I discovered passion, true passion and artistry. And when I wasn't there, I was just waiting to get back there, waiting to get back to that place. So during that time when I would go to the Living Room 7th and 8th grade, I was just connecting with everybody. Like I would make out with this person, make out with that person. Everything was cool. I'd like cuddle over here, cuddle over there, chatter, chit chat, hang out with this group, that group. And it was all just this like melting pot of humans that I felt a lot of love for, and I felt very loved by. And I never thought twice about it. I never thought about having to define it in any particular way or define myself in any particular way. I just noticed that it felt very good for me and very in line with where I wanted to be. As things progressed in my life, went to high school, had a couple of girlfriends, monogamous relationships, and I noticed that even during, like this is upon reflection, because even at the times that we're in it, sometimes it's hard to have the awareness. So upon reflection, I can see now that even though I was in these monogamous relationships in high school, I was having other deeper connections with people that maybe weren't, you know, I didn't necessarily cheat on them, but those connections were probably not what my partners would have wanted or expected of me at the time. They were just like, they were intimate in some way, even if it was just locking eyes and feeling like intimate. And that intimacy was supposed to only be shared with the partner that I was with at that time. That was the expectation, the assumption, even though we didn't talk about that and decide that. It's just like you assume we're going to be monogamous and this is what it looks like. So freshman, sophomore, really just had 2 monogamous relationships, and then met who would be my future wife and then future ex-wife when I was 16. And really fell in love with her. You know how it is. Just totally fell in love with her. And it was a perfect relationship for me at the time. I loved it. And I also remember at that time being just so like open, like my heart, I wore everything on my sleeve. I really connected with art, poetry. I was like very expressive. And I remember even at 16 having to stifle that a little bit because I felt shame and guilt about having intimacy or intimate connection of any sort outside of that relationship. That was the first time I really felt like I started stifling myself in my life in order to take care of someone else, or that was my perception of it. So as things went on, we ended up moving from California out to Massachusetts, where she went to school, and I came with her, and it was a very beautiful story. I mean, it is a beautiful story, and I'm really proud of it. I'm really proud of that relationship and what we did together, what we created together. But upon reflection, I can see that over time, I started hiding more and more of myself, not just from her, not just from the world, but from me. In order for me to take care of the relationship and the guidelines that were presumed within monogamy, I had to stifle my desires. And if you've ever had a desire that you stifle, you know that it never really goes away. You either cut off a chunk of you, or it stagnates inside of you. And by the time it comes out, it's mutated and funky, and you don't really have the skills to deal with it in a way that's going to feel safe and good. So I had a lot of shame about my desires to connect with other people sexually or intimately in some way. Deep conversations, holding hands, dancing with someone else. Simple things, but at the time felt like big no-nos. I felt a lot of shame, a lot of guilt, and I also had a lot of trouble just letting that stuff go without losing pieces of myself. And we were together for 12 years, and she ended up leaving me. I mean, that's just a term that we use. We all kind of understand what it means. She didn't actually leave anything. She's still available to me 5 years later down the road. You know, we're still friends. We still have a relationship. I still love her. She still loves me. But we changed our relationship, and it was her decision. And I was devastated. I was not happy about it. I went crazy. I mean, not like in an explosive way, but I really, it was the hardest thing I've ever done by a lot. It was my biggest fear in the world, and it came true. And I had to change everything because I couldn't be where I was. I couldn't even have like a little bit of where I was come with me. I had to just change everything. So I did. I changed like everything, my diet, where I was living, what I would do for work, what I would do for money, my location on the planet, my friendships, everything. I had to be like really drastic about it. But I did not at that time think about or really have much awareness of alternative relationships to monogamy. And I was like on OkCupid, and I was like dating some people, and my thought was I want to find a partner for a long-term monogamous relationship. Like I want to find the one who's going to be with me forever, that we will stick to the guidelines of monogamy. And I wasn't even thinking that specifically because I didn't know there was, that I was just thinking I want to find a relationship and have it forever. I want to have support and love, and I didn't know that there was any other option besides one person in a monogamous way. So that was what was on my mind, that was what was on my mind. And I did. I had some relationships, and I needed to change them in order to keep going on the path that I was going. I recognized that certain relationships felt like I was going to stifle myself again. I felt really protective of not stifling myself, and I also felt a very strong desire to just settle down with another person and get my needs met in that area, get the support and the love that I was so craving. The camaraderie, the teamwork, all the things that we all naturally want in our lives. And then at some point I went to this festival, this fruit festival. Maybe you've heard me talk about these things before. I went to this fruit festival, and I met this girl, and I liked her. And at the same time, she was hanging out with this other dude, and he liked her too. And it was a little bit like I was just like feeling it out. So I didn't feel attached or angry or jealous or anything. It was very brand new. It was very brand new for him. We both just happened to like the same girl at the same time in the same place. And because of the vibe of the community there, it was all very compassionate, open, loving. It wasn't at all overtly polyamorous. Probably far from it, really. I think most people were probably identifying as monogamous if you had asked them. But the vibe was very open-hearted, soft, gentle, loving. And I just felt for the first time in my life this switch in my head. And I imagined, well, what if we both fell in love with this girl and wanted to be with her and like spend time together? And I just like let my mind do its thing that it does when we have a thought and we want to see what it would look like down the road. This is when like I didn't feel like, oh, I want this thing, I want this, but I was just like curious, you know? So I let the thought flow. And I let myself flow down the thought with it, you know? And I remember feeling this realization come to me. Like, oh, yeah, I mean, I could see that. I'm not sure that that's what I want, but I could see that. It's not that scary at all. That's not a big deal. I feel no jealousy, no anger. I feel no painful emotion. I just feel like, yeah, that seems possible. And by the end of the festival, we had both kind of had little dates with her or something. We'd like walked in the woods or like done these things. We'd both made out with her. Nothing more than that, just kind of had our own separate experiences. And then I would also hang out with him, like as a homie, and just like we would just chill and stuff. And by the last day, we happened to be in the same yoga class, and we were doing, the yoga teacher had us do this partner yoga, and it just happened that we were partnered up. And the partner move was something ridiculous. I mean, ridiculous, hilarious, vulnerable, you know, and funny. It was something like I think it was like we both sat next to each other with our feet on each other's feet, and we're holding arms and like pulling in. So you're looking right at the person as your crotch is spread, you know, wide open. And I just remember this feeling like, wow, this guy, he's like a friend of mine, and he's also something more than just a friend because he's been connecting with this other person in the same way, in this intimate way. And I just felt really good about it. That relationship, they're both like hella cool. I don't think we necessarily like link up in all the same ways. So that faded, you know, and there wasn't any time where I was super attached to it, but I had already processed the potential of a non-traditional relationship that involved more than just the monogamous approach. And it kind of shattered something inside of me that thought it had to be this one way. And after that, I just always had the thought in my mind. That was about 5 years ago. I always had the thought in my mind, like, I wonder if I want something more than just the terms of monogamy or the assumed terms of monogamy. I wonder. And I continued to date some people and have some relationships, and I had also decided at the time I wanted to take a step back from relationships in like a locking it down kind of relationship. I decided I wanted to build a relationship with myself. So I came up with this idea, I'm gonna take a year just for me. And I can see other people and, you know, maybe be like sexually intimate, maybe have really emotional, intimate connection with them. I can establish relationship, but I'm not going to like devote my heart space entirely to that yet. I'm going to keep most of my heart space just for me for a year, because I felt at the time that I needed that in order to learn who I am. And so I did that, and when I would date someone, I would just kind of let them know, like, I'm not necessarily looking for this type of relationship, you know, the traditional relationship, because I'm really working on me. I also have needs that I want to get met. I mean, those aren't just sexual needs when I say that. I mean, primarily it was just love. Primarily it was connection, intimate connection. And I think we all have that need. And some of it was sexual for sure, but sometimes when we say like, I have needs, I want to get met, people just automatically think you're trying not to say sexual, but that's what you mean. I have no problem with saying I have sexual needs. I just don't want, I want it known that it's much bigger than that. It's much bigger, and I think all of that is based on the center, which is love from other people, to give it and to share it. So I had that need big time. And I wanted to express it, and I wanted it to be expressed. And I didn't want to lose my connection with it. So I kept dating, and I just shared, this is where I'm at, and people were totally cool. And I started realizing that other people I was coming into contact with also didn't need me to show up in the traditional sense, in a monogamous, assuming way. I realized that some of the people I were dating, they were also dating other people, and sometimes I would feel like, okay, yeah, that makes sense, because I was just so default on monogamy. So maybe it would bring up some fear, some scary stuff, or some jealousy, or like some confusion. But ultimately, it was just more data for me to feel that space out. Around 9 months of doing my year-long thing, I really started talking to, I had already met Brittany Taylor, but I really started talking to her. And it started out just as, a friendship. And then it slowly grew. And by the time we had been well established in a friendship, I had totally just, I had fallen in love with her. And my heart wanted to share space with her. I felt like I want something more with this person. And I shared that with her one night. I just said, like, I'm totally in love with you. And she was able to share back that she was also in love with me. And that feeling was so amazing. It was just incredible. And throughout our friendship of chatting, we had talked a lot about open relationships and relationships in general. What were we looking for? And I had shared with her this story of this person I had met and this guy, and this like interesting realization that I had. But I still hadn't determined that I wanted, like I knew that I didn't want monogamy. I didn't know, I wasn't really sure. But I was getting more and more of that data and more of that information, and it was becoming more clear to me. And at the time, she was in a relationship that wasn't defined. And her partner at the time knew about me and knew that we were starting to share this bond. And of course I knew about him. And after we had shared that we wanted more than just friendship, we started visiting each other. She was living in Texas, I was living in California. We started visiting each other. I think I was into like 11 months or something. I can't remember exactly how it ended, but I had done the year by the time we actually started like being together. So I felt like I really did what I said I was gonna do around taking the year just for me. So however the timing played out, we were seeing each other and having a long distance relationship, and she was living with her partner and I was seeing other people. So right off, we were living a non-monogamous relationship. We were forming and creating a relationship based in non-monogamy. And it was very interesting to feel all of the feelings that come along with it, and everything that is connected with these assumptions of role that had been given to me, that I wasn't necessarily consciously choosing, but that I just assumed were supposed to happen, subconsciously, mostly. And to bring that stuff to the surface and be like, wow, there's parts of me that have this belief that actually is not true. Like a belief, say, that in order to have truth, to share honesty in a relationship, you have to be monogamous. I realize that's not true. We share more truth in our relationship than I've ever shared with anyone. Or in order to feel safe in a relationship, there has to be monogamy. And that was not true. I felt more safety in this relationship than I've ever felt before. And so many paradigms like that they just weren't true. But the connections that those truths, those old stories had made with my emotional world were strong, and they were deep. And at times I felt totally overwhelmed with jealousy, with fear, immense fear, with anxiety, different very intense emotions. And every step of the way just kept being honest with myself. Is this what I want? Is this right for me? Is this good for me? Is this healthy for me? And there were times when I felt like, no, it's not. I don't want this. But when I would get into a centered space and find more spaciousness, more relaxation, more connection with myself, I would keep returning to the truth, which was, I do want this. I want to be able to be 100% me. And 100% me wants to connect with more than just one person in certain intimate ways that traditionally would not be okay in a monogamous relationship. I also want my partner or my partners, the people that I'm connecting with, to be able to express themselves 100%, to be able to show up in my life authentically without feeling like they have to hold anything back, keep anything from me, lie to either me or themselves. I wanted a relationship where shame and guilt was not part of the equation, where we didn't put that stuff on one another, where instead we just said, you're perfect, I'm perfect, let's come together, see what we make. Let's choose each other every day because we want to, not because we're expected to, not because we have to. We don't have a contract. We can set up a contract if we choose to, but we've chosen not to. We've chosen just to show up every day and decide every day, do I want to spend my time with you or somewhere else? Either with me or someone else or whatever it's going to be. And every day, choosing what that time spent actually looks like. So it's been about 3 years now that Brittany and I have been connecting, and her partnership with her previous partner has really shifted. And I feel like that's more her story, so I don't feel compelled to share much more on that. But our relationships with others continue to form, continue to become. And we co-create relationships with other people, and we also create relationships individually with other people, and we're constantly creating our relationship with each other. Our polyamorous relationship, and I use polyamorous because people know what it means, but not necessarily do I feel attached to the label. But it's kind of the closest thing that I can say in order to bring some common understanding of what I'm talking about. In our polyamorous relationship, we don't have rules or laws or contracts. We just connect day by day, and we choose the type of relationship we want to share with one another. And if there's a day when we don't want to share space, we don't have to. That's totally okay. My desire is to take care of me and for me to support her in taking care of herself. And if there's something that's coming up for me that's difficult or that I need more help with, that I can share that with her. And if she doesn't want to give that to me or isn't able to give that to me, then I can get that from somewhere else. What I've found is this is the most free, the most loving, the most supported, the most sexy, the most passionate I've ever felt in a relationship, and it's the most of those things that I've ever felt for someone else in a relationship. This type of relationship for me has allowed me to be more of myself, and not just to be it, but to be loved for it by someone else. And we don't need that in order to love ourselves, but it's really helpful. It's super helpful. And so from this relationship that I've created, I have been able to find more love for me, more confidence in me, and therefore more happiness and more health. And that's what we're talking about on this channel. Happiness and health. Happiness and health. Not everyone is going to want to do a relationship like this, and I'm not suggesting that at all. I'm really unique from you. You are not the same as me. I am not the same as you. You know what's best for you. You know what's going to work and what's not. And I fully support any type of relationship that's going to be the best for you, that's going to bring the most happiness and health into your life. I think the common thing that we all can carry through is honesty and authenticity with us as individuals, and bringing that into our relationship. And I think that we can all do that by developing more compassion, and specifically compassionate communication. Bringing the ability to share ourselves and to allow other people to share themselves with us into our relationships. It changes the game. It changes everything. Are you being you in your relationship? Are you accepting of the other people in your relationships? Are you open to change? Are you curious? Are you compassionate? You know, these are the things that are important. It doesn't matter if you want to have sex with other people, or you just want to have sex with your one person, or you don't want to have sex, or you want this kind of intimacy and not this kind, or it doesn't matter. You can work all that stuff out. You can figure all that stuff out. Relationships are all about negotiation. But to come from a foundation of compassion, that's something that I think we can all share. And I think we will all say, that's where health lies. That's where happiness lies. That's where a healthy relationship begins and ends, is with a foundation of compassionate communication. I'm really happy with my relationship. It's totally non-traditional. It's changing all the time. And it's kind of like me, you know, it makes sense. I represent it. I've never been happier or more fulfilled. I've never felt more love for someone, and I've never felt more loved by someone. And that's what it's all about, you know? So I just encourage you to get yours, to figure out like what is best for you without a default, without an assumption because they said that that's what the assumption is, you know? It doesn't have to be that way. We're changing our relationship with our materials, with our jobs, with the money that we make. We can change our relationship with any piece of our life that isn't working for us. And if your style of relationship isn't working, you can change it. Doesn't mean make it like mine. It means make it like you actually want, whatever that is. Yeah. So much love to you, so much, and thank you for letting me share an in-depth reason on why I choose polyamory. I would really love for you to check out the channel that I share with Brittany, where we talk more in depth about these things. I'll put the link in the description box. I'll put a little iCard up there that you can click on and go right there. And also, if you're watching this on some other platform, you don't have access to those things, you can just Google Connor and Brittany, and you'll find it. So we have a YouTube channel. We also have a website where we have membership access. We share a lot more deeply within the membership site than we do on YouTube, because YouTube doesn't allow certain content, and also we wanted to make a a more in-depth platform where people could kind of log on to and get that material without feeling like it's exposing too much in the public arena. So we feel really good about that. So you can check that out. Also, just Google Connor and Brittany, or you can go to connorandbrittany.com. I would love to hear about your relationship if you want to share. I would love for comments to be compassionate. That would mean so much to me. Doesn't mean that you have to agree with what I'm saying, but I would love for you to express yourself compassionately in a way that's respectful. Not just me, but to everyone. You know, we can change the world by interacting in a loving way with one another just right here on YouTube. So let's practice that. I would love to do that with you. So much love. Take great and good care of yourselves. We'll keep making videos over here on Thriving Minimalist, and yeah, I'll check in soon.